Doki Doki Literature Club. Depending on the circles you're in, you might never have heard of this title before, all your friends have played it, or you've been spoiled with memes on Reddit. But this video will approach Doki Doki somewhat differently. I will argue that this game isn't just quirky, there is also some serious commentary laying beneath the surface. Spoiler warning, by the way. This video is linked to a bigger essay. I can't discuss everything here, so I will focus on the subversion of genre conventions. The kind of approach you'll see me use is called a textual analysis. I'm using Fernandez Vares' method, as she describes it in her work An Introduction to Game Analysis. If you want to know more about this, make sure to look her up. Without further ado, let's get right into the interesting bit. Doki Doki Literature Club presents itself as a dating simulator at first. For those of you unfamiliar with dating sims are romance games in which the purpose is to romance one of the characters. The majority of the game consists of reading a story you can click through, decorated with sprites, the drawn characters behind the text box, backgrounds, music, and sound effects. Throughout the story, the player is presented with a couple of choices that they can click to influence the development of the story. For example, spending more time with a girl is always a good thing, because it means you can progress your relationships. These games have a save option, so you can save just before you have to make a decision. Generally, after the first series of good decisions, you'll be able to end up on a character's route, meaning the game noticed who you picked and now only branches off into possible endings with that character. As you can see, Doki Doki seems very similar to this model. In this game too, the heroines all seem interested in the player character and the player is given options to choose who he spends time with. But it all takes a grim turn when one of the characters, the player character's best friend, Sayori, hangs herself. Once she dies, she disappears from the game files and the game. There is nothing the player can do to prevent this from happening. Somehow the decisions that normally in dating sims determine the entire course of the game have become meaningless. The options just before this happens are confessing your love to her or calling her your best friend. To seasoned dating sim players, this looks like a decision determining whether you want to be on Sayori's route or not. Most likely her response to this decision will be disregarded by a player, because the skeleton structure and conventions of dating sims are so familiar to us, and it plays right into one. The player character, when he encounters her dead body, refers back to this decision, expressing his regret over thinking only about himself, and, by extension, about romantic relationships instead of his best friend's misery. This functions as commentary on the mindset players are usually encouraged to take on. The fact that confessing to her doesn't keep her from killing herself helps too. Love doesn't solve mental issues. In dating sims, love is often framed as capable of everything. If you make all the right choices and she loves you as much as possible, all troubles fade away. This is, of course, bogus. Someone with a very bad depression will not be magically cured when someone loves her. When returning to the main menu and starting a new game, the player will notice Sayori no longer exists in the game at all. So what is happening? One of the girls, Monica, is a non-dateable character. The game doesn't afford to romance her. In dating sims, these are often thrown in to provide neutral choices, to provide a more diverse cast, or to include some comedic relief. But Monica is self-aware, in love with you, frustrated that you won't spend time with her, and taking matters into her own hands. The loss of control the player experiences throughout the game is Monica's gain of control, and making decisions to reach the ending she wants. She has become the player, and you are the NPC. As the one playing and in control, she influences the code of the other girls, which is what enhanced Sayori's depression enough to hang herself and later causes Yuri to stab herself in ecstasy. After this, Monica just deletes the two others and proclaims a happy ending. She defends her actions by saying, "It's not like I could actually kill a person," and "Come on, everyone's killed people in games before." The things she says are not only very fourth wall breaking, but can be interpreted as follows. Why is death considered so much more tragic in a dating sim as compared to a shooter game or platformer like Mario Bros? This has to do with framing again. There is often a clear divide between ally and enemy in these games, and violence is normalized and provided as a problem-solving tool. As the goal in dating sims is finding a lover, the games are very plot-heavy, and a player is often only provided with dialogue options, death is an uncommon occurrence, which makes deaths in dating sims very tragic. Monica's lack of care is striking, and brings the reality of death over any murders we've committed in video games in the past. So in this way too, the game makes us see conventions in dating sims and other games, and questions them. But most importantly, what does it mean that Monica is in control? What does it mean that we're put in the NPC's shoes? It questions our assumption of control in dating sims and other games. Why, if you look at it from a story perspective, should your specific character be the one driving the story and making the changes to the world? Is that what makes it a video game? Or is that also a convention? There are more elements in the game that support this reading. For example, there are a couple of occurrences, like visual effects or jump scares, that have a chance to appear to the player but are not triggered by player actions. In other words, they have a chance of happening in a playthrough, and whether they happen or not is not influenced by anything a player does. So if you want to see them, you just have to hope you'll be lucky and the game goes the way you want. There are also a bunch of secret poems. These really help to give background information about the girls, but you cannot influence which poems you'll see in which playthrough. And lastly, the ending of the game. When left with just Monica, the player is encouraged to go into the game files and delete Monica's character file. Monica surrenders and gives you the game back. The game starts up with the 3 other girls and everything is more peaceful and cutesy than ever before. The player character now joins the club out of his own accord and the player has taken back control. But then Sayori reveals that as she is now in Monica's position, she has become sentient, knows everything about the game and will undo everything the player just did to fix things. The situation is revealed to be hopeless. The game cannot be a normal dating sim as one of the characters will always take over. Monica ends up erasing everything when she sees this. The game is now broken and can no longer be played. Credits roll and the player can only surrender and give up on playing. So even when you do decide to change something, the only change you make is deleting the game. That cannot be considered control in the game, as deleting a picture from your PC is also always possible. Yet we don't call that a game. At the beginning of this video, I explained to you what a dating simulator is. Doki Doki does the same, by doing the exact opposite. It challenges what most believe to be rules, exposing them for what they are, conventions. It ridicules the bad parts of dating sims that it believes need some work. In my essay I talk about more elements the game points out to be ridiculous, but in this video I only had time to speak generally. If you are interested in seeing what's in there, by all means give it a read. Thanks for watching.